What is up, guys? It is Stu, and it is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast, and I have Cindy Bickman here. All right, Cindy owns the Row House in Charlotte, North Carolina, the first. Mm-hmm. You are the territory owner in that franchise, but you're one of these. I had a professional as fuck. You were a litigator in New York.
Yes.
You went to law school.
Yes.
And you're like, you know what? That last 6+ years of my life, let me go do what, I've got kids that they're doing straight out of fucking high school and college. What is the mindset? Because I talk to a lot of microgym owners that get into that. Was it just not what you thought from like day one, litigation, law? You were just like, no, never mind. This is not me.
I hated it from day one. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I litigated for 10 years, and then I went in-house to an insurance company. I did that for 5 years. Big, massive cases, directors and officers, $1 million kind of cases. A little bit better in-house than in a law firm, but still hated it.
Sure.
And then when we moved down here, all I did was teach yoga and meditation.
And you and your husband moved down here?
Yep.
Okay. Why did you move down here?
We were both working crazy hours.
What does he do?
He works at a bank.
Okay.
He's an MBA, I'm a JD, and we were just barely making ends meet, both of us working full-time, and both of us pretty much hated what we did, but I hated it more. So the thought was if we moved down here, we could live on one income.
Sure.
And I could
just difference of cost of living,
Yep.
New York. Where were you in New York?
Yeah, so we lived actually in New Jersey.
Okay.
I was in New York growing up, and then I moved to New Jersey, like most people do. We lived in the suburbs.
Where in Jersey?
A few different places. Last place was Clinton, New Jersey.
Okay, I lived in Raritan, Bridgewater area. Yeah,
I was in Bedminster,
Yeah.
West Orange.
Yep.
And my sister had moved down here, and we were like, yes, no snow, cheaper to live.
Yeah.
So I moved down here, and I was teaching yoga. I was a manager at B Yoga. I loved it. I had owned a yoga studio in New Jersey as well. So I had some experience running a gym. But then, I don't know, I was looking for a challenge. I'd always wanted to own my own business. And I was a real frustrated fitness consumer for many, many years. I ran long distance. I kickboxed. I did all kinds of stuff that had me injured and miserable. Just injury after injury. And I was looking for something that was like, anybody could do it. I could put anybody on a machine safely. And I took my first row house class, and I was like, this is it.
For those, anyone listening is not familiar with the brand of Row House, imagine it's a spin studio-like model. It's what I call a pick-a-spot model. You register, you pick your rower, you come in, and you just have, how many ergs are in here?
There's 12 right now. There would be 25, non-COVID.
I'm about to say,
yes.
yeah. So non-COVID, we're talking 25, one instructor highlighted up on top, and very much that model. I go, you go, follow along, encouragement, the whole deal. You guys also do floor work.
Yeah.
You have them pop off. Everyone has a yoga mat, lightweight dumbbells, the whole deal. We were talking earlier, I first experienced Row House when I would drop in at a local CrossFit gym in Manhattan when I was visiting, and I would go down there and do open gym. Row House would be going upstairs. I'm like, oh, of course this is good. That's going to work because it's low impact. Everyone's got upper body. And CrossFit probably made the concept to rower as possible as it could possibly ever be, right? What was it like, if you're doing yoga, how do you, did you just start Google searching fitness franchises to own and start ranking them and doing, your own research? Or had you touched this product, this service, this company prior?
I hadn't. I was actually researching the franchisors. So it's really important to me to get into with a good franchisor. And I knew Expo because I had been a Club Pilates member. I'd done Cycle Bar. I knew the brand. I'd done Pure Bar.
Explain to everyone that may not be familiar with Expo what that is.
Yeah, so Exponential Fitness is the parent company that owns 7 sister companies at this point. Row House is one of the newer models. It's been with the parent for about 3 years.
They own Crunch and Blink as well?
No, so they own Yoga 6.
Okay.
Pure Bar, Club Pilates, Stride, Cycle Bar, Stretch Lab.
Yep. So you guys are unique.
AKT is the last one. Yeah.
In their portfolio, you guys are definitely a unique then.
Yeah, each brand is its own kind of, venue, its own type of fitness. There's no overlap really between brands. They're really complementary, or they're meant to be. And rowing, Row House is really designed to be true to the sport of rowing. So a lot of fitness concepts will incorporate the rower, but we try to really be true to the sport in the sense that we keep our dampers set at a setting that's similar to rowing on the water. We pull together as a crew. Our screens in the studio, our TV screens, will show the group averages, the group meters, and we really see it as a group sport.
So even the metrics that you guys display on these TVs up here, these are all going to show team.
That's right.
What's the term? What's the term you guys use? Is it team? Is it crew? What's the
crew?
Crew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we really see it as everybody in the room has a role to play to pull the boat. And so when our coaches are giving encouragement, they'll look at that group split and say, let's pull that split down by 10 seconds. And everybody has a role in doing that.
Scenario: you've got a class going on, and you have what I affectionately call with clients a motor moron. Okay. Someone who cannot keep cadence whatsoever. They'd be a dancer with 2 left feet. Yeah. Is it ever like awkward if it's like this team thing and we're all pulling and stroking? Because when you watch crew, it's so much symmetry. It's beautiful. It's this orchestration. Are there any issues of that when there's someone who's way off and they're not meaning to be? They're a goofy athlete. They're just not, they don't move well.
So we call that being in swing.
Okay.
And that's one of my coaches' main jobs in the room, is to get that room in swing. Because it's the most beautiful feeling to be sitting in that room and seeing everybody at the catch together and at the finish together and being in swing. So we tell everybody, if you need to go to a half stroke, you need to lower your intensity, you can do that, but stay with us. Meet us at the finish and stay with us in swing. So we really try to get the whole room in swing.
With that being said, do you also, when people come on in and, we only use erg-based products, cardio machines at Urban, my gym, and I've got to educate someone because we refer to them as ergs day in and day out. Mm-hmm. What's your one-liner that you guys use? Because I know a lot of CrossFit gyms have this problem. People come in like, oh, is that a treadmill? And like ours are motorless, right? So we have to explain that. And, we try to talk about these things measure power output, right? The number one driving force is your legs, right? If you want to get better at rowing, deadlift and front squat, right? Yeah. You're going to get stronger legs. How do you guys explain the difference? Because it probably waters down the brand experience a little bit if people are like, oh, those cardio machines that they have. Mm-hmm.
So we do one-on-one consultations with everybody their first time. We talk to them on the phone so they know that they're coming in 15 minutes early for that one-on-one with the coach. And the coach will literally go through how you drive, how you increase intensity, how you decrease intensity. What are these numbers you're seeing on the screen? What does it mean when the numbers go down? What does it mean when they go up? So we try to teach them that before class. And then every row house class starts with a pick drill where we break down the stroke. We do arms only. We do body and arms. Then we bring the whole body together. Right. And then we end the class in reverse pick. So we break it down again at the end. So no matter if you're rowing 100 times with us or first time, you do that pick and reverse pick every time to isolate the body parts that are moving.
I love that. So let's talk about this. A row house, a spin studio, these are modalities I typically look at it. This is a great, I look at kind of 2 categories of people. There's starter fitness, people looking to get into something. They have been out of it for a while. And then there's Evolve My Fitness, someone who's currently in something and they've kind of moved through it as high as they're going to go and they want the next thing. Which avatar do you think row house fields the most? Do you think it's more like someone looking to get started and they see this and okay, it's single modality, some stuff off the floor or on the floor, I can handle that? Or are you getting people coming in here like, hey, I've done CrossFit for 4 years, or I've done some other HIIT studio at the YMCA and I want to step it up a notch? Where do you see it? Or is it a mix? Like, I also run and this complements my running when it's cold as hell out.
I would definitely say it's a mix. We do have people in here that row on the water or that are marathon runners.
Like about Lake Norman, like locally?
Or Lake Wiley.
Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay.
A couple of my coaches were competitive rowers for about 10 years. So we definitely have the rower element. We have the runner element for sure. Our founders were runners. They actually founded the brand because they found their marathon times went down the most when they cross-trained the most with rowing. It was injury prevention and just increased their running capacity. So we get that, but we have a lot of starter fitness, a lot of people that are intimidated from group fitness, would have never done any other thing, but feel like they're welcome here. The environment is so inclusive. We have a lot of people that have never felt athletic in their lives, and they are now quoting their splits, their performance metrics, watching the magic that's happening by showing up. Because I can take anybody off the couch and put them on a rower and show you 3 months later how much they've improved, and they're not getting injured.
Sure.
So I've got both elements, but I would say if you ask me what's the majority of what walks in the door, it's that starter fitness, that this seemed like something they could do. Maybe they got hurt before, or they don't want high impact, or they have a bad knee. I get a lot of that.
And the rower is a much more, we talked earlier, I think CrossFit really pushed the concept to rower out there into existence for a lot of people. Orange Theory came around with the bubble rower,
Yes.
and then you see companies like Hydro out there, and they're like making rowing a more of a mainstream thing when it was a very niche. You only saw it at, Ivy League schools in their crew, the crew room, in the gym, that kind of scenario. Did you find, because these were impossible to buy once the pandemic hit, like how many did you guys what time did you open in the middle of the pandemic? When did you kick off?
So I purchased in July of 19, way before.
Yeah.
So I already had everything ordered. All my equipment was ordered. But we didn't we opened outdoors first in June of 2020. And we didn't open indoors till September of 2020. So we've only been open 4 months.
And with that, so September of 2020. So you have August, September, October, November. All right. So you got this like 4 month period. Were you doing pre-sales? Were people like, how does it, like pre-selling is when, especially with a franchise and they have it dialed in, is done pretty well. You've got, you get some really nice 3D renderings. You show the client, this is what it's going to look like. Here's your founder's rate for a year or whatever you do. How did pre-selling go mid-pandemic?
Yeah. So I started pre-sale right before COVID, and it was gangbusters. People had never heard of Row House, didn't know what the hell they were buying, but they were buying it. And
what were they buying? What was the promotion?
So the original founder's rate, we went up in $10 increments. The original founder's rate was a full $60 below price of our unlimited package. It went up by 10 for every 50 memberships purchased. So it was $99, $109, $119, $129 were the founding rates. So that's what they're buying. The unlimited's only. That's all we sold in pre-sale. And we sold like gangbusters. COVID hit.
How high did it get up to? How many tiers did you guys end up going up?
We went up all 4.
Okay.
But we definitely had major drop-offs with COVID, and then cancellations started. So that was the bigger hit, even more than not selling, was the people buying who thought, oh, this COVID thing will be gone in a month or two, and then realizing it's not going anywhere.
Sure.
And so then we got the tail end of all the avalanche of cancellations, which we're still trying to recover from.
And so how many memberships did you guys end up selling in pre-sale?
It was about 160 or so in pre-sale. Yeah.
Is that pretty par for the course for franchise?
Yeah, we try to get between 150 and 200 in pre-sale. We had a long pre-sale because we had delayed opening, so we really were pre-selling for about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys get over, and then in COVID, what was the minus? What was the outflow on that? Where like when you guys finally, when the governor let us all open back up here in North Carolina, what were you guys sitting at?
So it wasn't too bad when we first opened, but over the next couple months, we got a lot of, we've lost about half of our founding members. So I'd say 50% have left. And now it's just, trying to get new people to know who we are and to come in. And we've done a lot of promotions to get new people in.
It's, you look at that experiment, you're like, well, people were, they were naive to the concept and it went gangbusters. And now COVID, we're allowed to be open with some mask kind of regulations, social distancing, things like that. But is it the fact that, it's what I look at, did enough people buy Pelotons and one of these at home maybe? And there's like that, what we call like the treadmill industry talked about this a lot back in the 90s. There's a guilt period where someone purchases it. And even after they stop using it, they don't immediately go and enroll in a gym. There's like a guilt period of like, I spent $3,000 on that thing.
Right.
Like my wife will kill me if I then go straight and go get a gym membership. I think a lot of gyms are like, oh my God, as soon as we get back up, brick and mortar isn't dead. Everyone's going to come rushing in. It depends on who you're after. And if who you're after went and spent several $1000s on at-home fitness, there's a guilt period where they're going to, even if they're not using it, they're not going to probably be able to mentally then go justify, using it as a coat rack right now. It's going to be like, all right, I haven't touched that in 8 months. Let me get into the gym.
I'll tell you the truth. We have plenty of members that have rowers at home, and they don't row at home. They come here because we're not selling rowing.
Sure.
What we really offer is community. A lot of these people have no other social outlet. They work from home. Their kids are doing virtual school. They come in here, and they're so excited to be here, and it's like a family.
Sure.
So I have this one woman who she lives a good half hour away. She called me 2 months ago and said, I bought a rower. I don't really want to come in more than maybe once or twice to learn how to row, And that's it. I said, okay, come in for a free class. She bought a 4-pack after that. Then she went up to an 8-pack. Then she bought a 20-pack on our Black Friday. Now she's moving to unlimited. She said, I've used my road home twice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you guys, you got Soul Cycle, gets, they get a lot of credit in their business model. They're probably the biggest PIF model out there, right? They run paid in fulls, packs, and that's it. Where the rest of us are on a subscription EFT based. What's that breakdown for Row House? How much are you guys looking to have in PIF models? Because it's nice to have the cash on hand, especially after an upfit and you guys moving in here and all that, versus how much of your portfolio do you want to see in recurring membership?
Yeah, so it's interesting. That plays in a little bit to what I was talking about in terms of what are we really selling? If you're buying a 4-pack, 8-pack, some kind of pack, and you're not coming at least once or twice a week, you're not feeling the community, you're not hitting your meter milestones, you're not getting the celebrations, you're not doing the challenges, you're not doing the relay rows, you're not really getting the whole model, I'm afraid I'm going to lose you. So I love the EFT, not just because it's great, reliable revenue, but because it really builds the community and people see what we're about.
Yeah, the subscription has some built-in accountability type scenario, and there is, this isn't singular minutes. If you don't use it, you lose it type scenario. There creates a sense of urgency. Do you guys have tight parameters on your paid in fulls, or is it something where someone can sit on a 4-pack for a long time?
No, they're pretty tight expirations. Our 20-pack's the most generous. You have 6 months to use it. And that goes one of two ways. They show up 20 times in 2 months and they end up becoming a member, or they just disappear.
Sure.
So, that they can be good or not good.
Talk to me a little bit as an owner-operator, what is your role here at Row House? What does your day-to-day look like?
I'm here a lot. That wasn't my original plan.
You were meant to be the franchisee, own this thing, fill it with staff,
right?
Rock and
I
roll.
was going to open, multiple locations. It's not how it turned out. My first general manager left me a month before we opened indoors. Second general manager, I took one of my coaches into the position. Wasn't a good fit. She's still my coach. She's still fantastic. Wasn't a good fit. Starting another one now, but I've filled all the gaps. I'm still the holder of all knowledge, so I'm here a lot. I know every single member by name. I know their kids. I know their birthdays. I know their celebrations. People like to see me here, and I like to see them. So I'm still a really integral part of the studio, but what I'd love to see happen is 6 months from now, I have a really strong manager up front, a really strong sales staff, and I can start to look at opening more locations.
I think a lot of independent microgym owners look at the franchise world of Orange Theories and things of that nature, and they assume it's and Orange Theory is very expensive. That's probably a bad example, but it's a couple doctors who went and threw in some money on this thing, but they're never actually there. They might actually be a member. They come and go, but they're not in it like an independent mom and pop gym owner type scenario. And in this, while this is a franchise, you're still, again, current situation, withstanding, you're in it just like you would, just like any of these mom and pop gym owners that listen to this channel. What do you think? Because I'm sure did you meet and talk with other franchisees prior to going in with Row House?
Sure.
Would that statement I made probably be pretty accurate pre-2020, where a lot of franchisees are more removed, kind of like you mentioned, a little bit more removed, open up pop-up locations, hover over top, make sure the shit doesn't burn down.
Yeah, so we became a franchise not that long before COVID. The studios have been open the longest is maybe 2 years, so there wasn't a whole lot of track record. Most owners are pretty involved in the business. If they're not there every day, they're still in the computer, in the system. They know exactly what's going on. I don't know that a lot of people have gotten that independence. I mean, I know some owners that have 3 locations. It's probably the most right now, even though people bought 8 and 10 packs. Just because of COVID, it really never got off the ground that way.
And you guys purchased the franchisees kind of like packs.
Yeah.
So walk me through that. So territories, things like that for everyone not listening. You sign to a franchise, you can go and get a territory.
Yep.
That way you're competing with yourself,
yes.
right? These locations. So what is your territory here?
It's South Charlotte, Noda's in the north, all the way down to Ballantine is my territory. I have a license for 3 locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that something that, do you pay on that even if you only have 1 open? Or, got it. So you're paying on these hypothetical other 2 locations. That look on your face right now is just epic right now. Yeah. It's just one of those. And I think a lot of people, if you've never sat down and you've gone far enough to look at franchise disclosure docs at different companies, really kind of understand how that works. I think a lot of people look at a franchisee as oh, you got the playbook. It's the McDonaldization of the fitness thing for you. You just open it up and do what they say. There's a lot of risk still involved as a franchisee.
Yes.
Orange Theory wasn't able to, loan out their dumbbells and equipment to members and let them whatever. How many warehouse-based CrossFit HIIT studios were able to give everyone a kettlebell, here's a pair of dumbbells, and keep entire memberships. We lost 3% of people throughout all of COVID because I literally emptied my entire gym. Everybody had equipment. We went to the online thing. What were some of the franchise handcuffs that you saw? Because you came in the middle of it. Were there any let me use Orange Theory as an example. They were extremely slow to get a digital product off the ground. Berries, crazy slow to get it off the ground compared to what independent mom and pop organizations can, little jet skis versus Titanics. Did you have any slowdown? Did you feel like it was harder to shift and pivot on the pandemic because you're in a franchise model?
So I didn't have the established member base before COVID, but corporate was really fast with Row House Go. We had that really quickly. And not only did we have Row House Go, we had all 7 brands. So we had an all-access pass that we were giving out for free to anybody that bought in pre-sale so they could do Club Pilates, Pure Barre, anything from home. I have a deal right now for my active members that if they're not comfortable coming into the studio, they can have a rower at home. They keep their membership active and they get Row House Go. So they can take classes at home. So no, our digital product was out quickly.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned you really researched the franchisor, the start of this thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about that person. Who is that and what about that individual sold you on this model?
So it's not so much the individual as what I knew about the way they operate their programming, because having been a Club Pilates member and a Pure Barre member, every time you come in, it's a different class. The programming's intelligent. It's pre-packed for the coaches. They're not like sitting home at night creating programming. So they do a really good job delivering music. All the music's delivered. All the programming's delivered. And I just knew the other brands and how successful they were, and I couldn't imagine that this one wouldn't be because there was nothing like it.
Do your coaches here, are they self-creating those playlists and programming, or is that something that comes down from corporate?
Everything's available for them through corporate. They can create playlists, and every month we get themed playlists. So we'll have like 6 or 8 special playlists, and then every type of class.
Like you had classic rock on your birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that my coach created, yes. But the coaches can always design their music, but they don't have to. So I was a yoga teacher for many years, and that was one of the things where like you'd sit there creating your playlist, doing all this stuff. You didn't get paid for that, and I never wanted my coaches to be like, I just spent 2 hours preparing for a class. I don't get paid for that time. So if they do it because they want to, but they don't have to.
I look at everything we do in the fitness industry, in the boutique space, microgym space, and I generally break it down into 5 areas. You have to attract the customer, you have to convert the customer, you got to deliver to the customer, you got to collect either monies from the customer, productivity from your staff, efficiency from your systems, and then you have to connect with them so we're not dealing with a shitty retention scenario and having to constantly spend money on marketing. On the attracting side, it's typically the marketing, and then the converting side, the sales. Break down for Row House. What is the one thing, if you were to say, the chicken or the egg? Is it the marketing that is put outside into the system that brings people in that really does it for you guys, or is it having the sales staff? If you had to go and put the gold star on one of those, which one would it be?
Neither. I would put it on the coaches.
Okay.
The coach is the one that does the sales. Not in the literal sense that they sell the package, but people are buying that relationship. The coach is making eye contact with individuals. Now, they're limited in COVID. They have to be mostly on the stage. They can't come over the way they would when I took Row House classes pre-COVID, and the coaches are walking around and they're giving you that. I mean, it's fabulous when a coach makes eye contact with you and gives you that
tactile cue,
push.
verbal cue, absolutely.
Yes. So they're a little limited, but, I mean, they're calling out the names. They're making those connections. They talk to them 15 minutes before they come in. They hold them back after class. The coach is really what's selling the product and the group experience. My sales staff should have a really easy job up front. It should just be like, here's Susie. She loved the class. She wants to come twice a week. What do you got for her? So that's how I look at it. The digital marketing is just so they know our name, so they know we're here. But we sell them when they come in.
Is the digital marketing something included? Is there like a 2% anything that's all on you guys?
We pay a shit ton for digital. So we pay in the marketing bucket for corporate. There is some national advertising, but not a ton. Not the amount I'd like to see.
Yeah.
But we spend a lot. Every single month we're required to spend a certain amount on marketing. Now, I will say this for Exponential. they have helped me with that because I've really suffered opening when I did, and they will come in and help you with that marketing expense, but they want to keep your digital marketing going at full bore. They don't want you to cut it down. So if you're in a position of like, I can't do it this month, they will pay for it just to keep it going.
What do they want you to spend per month?
I think 1,500 is the minimum, but
Okay.
I've never spent less than 2,000.
Yep.
I think that it's necessary, especially because we're an unknown brand in this area, to just keep being on top of mind for people that we're out here. Sometimes somebody has to click on it 14 times before they do it, maybe more than that. So I think the digital marketing is super important for us.
Your sales staff, do you have dual purpose roles? Do you have coaches who are also sales as well? Or mainly do you just have people who do sales, do the calls, follow-ups, all that? What does that hierarchy in the org chart look like at a row house?
Yeah, so typically a studio will have a lead coach. That lead coach is somewhat of a crossover in the sense that they are making calls, mostly member retention side of checking in. How are you doing? Do you need a one-on-one? How's it going? I do not have a lead coach and haven't. So if anybody out there is interested, mostly because we're a new brand and I really wanted to see the coach dynamic and how the team would grow. I have fabulous coaches, some that are technically amazing and some that are group fitness amazing. I kind of have them from all backgrounds. I have Zumba, I have CrossFit competitors, I have row house, rowers, competitive rowers. But I don't have a lead coach. So my coaches coach and they build relationships. And my sales staff is doing the prospecting calls. I do a ton of calls. I mostly do the difficult calls. But anybody that came in and didn't purchase, I'll probably call them or my general manager will. My coaches don't do that.
So compared to a full operational, like what you would anticipate you would have probably at the end of 2020, not in a COVID world, what is a staff? What is how big is your bench here? How many employees are to make this machine run?
If I had 25 rowers in the room, right, that's double what we have right now. So I'd probably say 5 people on the sales staff. Right now I have 6 coaches. A full bench would be 7 or 8.
Okay.
I'd love to expand our schedule, double the number of classes if we can get that membership base up. So yeah, a full staff would look like that.
It's impressive. So I'll ask an independent gym owner, I'll ask about the org chart, and it's always coach, very, very deep bench on the coaching front. Who's on the sales staff? And they're like, well, me, and then Coach Johnny, if he's not coaching, is good at it too. And the biggest difference in the gyms who, if you talk about those 5 buckets, I talk about the attracting side, they have the digital marketing, they have the brand presence out there so that the 39 times someone sees it, and then the one time they're at the red light and they're like, you know what, fuck it, I will get that free class. I will. But it takes a very strong sales team of individuals who can stay constantly contacted to you. And I'll generally challenge an independent owner. I'm like, go to your local Orange Theory, go there for a trial, and then over the next 90 days, you tell me how many times you get a call, a text, and an email. And you will see the power of a sales staff. And because most studios and gyms that listen to this, they would claim, and I think they'd be correct, we have great retention, but we're not making the money we should be making. And again, let's take COVID out of the equation. It's the inflow, and then the conversion portion is so weak. It's just like it's a trickle. It's like a broken faucet that just trickles through. Now, once the water gets in the basin, boom, it stays there. There's not a lot of cracks in that bucket. Your sales staff, because obviously you mentioned, we have these great CrossFit athletes, they're good rowers. We have technical coaches. We have great group, more group kind of coaches. What do you look for in a sales staff individual?
Yeah, so we work the shit out of our leads. That's an exponential thing. I mean, they hammer us. We have at least 5 corporate calls a week on, lead generation, on follow-up to leads. They have afternoon coffee for closers, like every kind of call you can imagine.
That's a Glenn Ross line, if anybody's never seen that movie, yes.
Yeah, so our sales staff has to be really comfortable with the phone, and when you're under a certain age, that can be a little difficult, right?
Sure.
They like to text, but they don't like to call. Our system really helps with that. There's accountability built into our system.
Do you have a CRM you use specifically?
Club Ready.
Okay.
So it will set tasks on day 1, 3, 7, 14, 30. Cooled off, I don't care. We keep going. And I'm in there all the time adding tasks. So if you left a voicemail, that call is not complete. You got to call again. We follow up with a text. So we do a lot of that. Until somebody tells me to go away, I'm going to keep calling.
Till they die, buy, or tell you to fuck off.
Yes. And I'll tell you, there are people that we've had in our system for 8 months. They just came in for a class. So they're never dead.
It's you think about it like your inbox. Like I get emails all the time that I delete literally almost 365 days. And it's that like, well, I'm going to go look at that at some point, right? But I'm not going to unsubscribe. I want it to keep coming in because it's just a nice daily reminder.
Yes.
And that's exactly, I always think of it, it was a great, there's a sales coach I heard talk about it from imagine a boyfriend is trying to court a girl, but she already has a boyfriend.
Yeah.
So like this guy's trying to court this girl. So he sends her a text on her birthday. He bumps into her and says she looks beautiful. He just makes those little touch points. And the day her boyfriend fucks up and she breaks up with him, guess who she's going to be thinking of is that person who is constantly there. And I think a lot of you nailed it. Everyone's very comfortable right now, text.
Yeah.
But the call, I think people don't want to, we all think of telemarketers in that realm. We don't want to be over salesy.
Right.
But those individuals, they gave you the information. You didn't buy a list from some marketing company.
The people who bought memberships in pre-sale from me, because it was mostly me, liked me. That's why they bought from me. They didn't know what the hell a row house was. But we talked for 20 minutes, and then they wanted to buy from me. So I really believe in the power of that conversation and connection. And I know the questions to ask where people will start telling you their whole story, and then you got them because you made a connection. And then you know, and you remember those things when they come in. Oh, how's Johnny? And how did your birthday go? How's your knee feeling? I know, and that's the sale.
Yeah.
It's not the text message.
Earlier when I asked you about which one of those five, I asked you attract or convert, which one, and you went to the deliver, which was really interesting. There's SoulCycle recently went under fire with that. There was a big article that went out with a lot of their trainers, the trainers that produced the most revenue. They had the most loyal following, doing a bunch of degenerate shit that you would do when you get a penthouse in Manhattan because you're the top, SoulCycle trainer. In your model where the instructor drives popularity for the class, what I call like the popularity compensation model. Is that built in? Is it if you sell out classes, there are higher tiers of compensation there, or is it flat rate whether you have 3 people in class or you sell out that entire 25?
Good question. In a non-COVID world, they get paid by the head over 12 rowers. Right now, it's just flat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, do you ever fear? Because at some point you said it. I think very similarly. I want my customers to align with that coach because, Maslow's not wrong, right? Making those connections is important. However, where is that threshold where someone becomes loyal to the individual over the brand? And you're in such a niche where it's like, well, what are they going to do? Go to Orange Theory and one part of the workout's rowing. I'll go there and follow Coach Johnny there. So you've kind of got a niche. But is there ever that fear as an operator in here? Like, I'm creating mini little celebrities in here with their own following. People, if I take Johnny and move him from the 6 a.m. class to the 9 a.m. class, I'm going to get some customer service emails. But when delivering, like you said, is the big focus, I want that to be the thing that keeps people here, whatever. Do you ever think about, okay, well, this chick's been coaching 6:30 a.m. so much, I probably should work some other people in there so that entire 6:30 a.m. class doesn't think of it as row house, they think of it as Meg house because Coach Meg is the one who always does that class.
So it's interesting. We have a private Facebook group for our members, and somebody commented in there, I learned something different from every coach that I've taken, and that's how it should be. So my 2 competitive rowers teach the stroke clinics. They're super amazing on technique.
What's a stroke clinic?
Stroke clinic is all drills on form. So we'll do strapless rowing, we'll do endurance-based,
is it a type of class?
Power-based, yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same, as any other class. You don't have to purchase it specially, but we do at least 3 stroke clinics a month. And so they know who to go to on those technical things. But then they know the coach who's whoops it up, has a lot of fun in the room.
Yeah.
And they enjoy that too. And then there's the coach who, has taught them something else. But I don't see that like people following one particular coach. I see the appreciation of how they're all different. My competitive CrossFitter, she's got legs from here to next week. You go to her class, you're going to row at a higher stroke rate because you got to keep up with her, and she just pushes you beyond your limit. So every coach kind of has a different role, and I think people just appreciate that. Oh, if you're in Laura's class, you're going to work really hard. You're in Katie's class, you're going to improve your stroke. So that kind of thing.
Do you take the strategy of swapping coaches into different times so that they because typically members are creatures of habit. They attend certain classes certain times because that's it, I believe fitness, as much as I love the community aspect of it, I truly believe people attend boutique fitness because it's a pillar of their schedule.
Yeah.
It's built in. I drop my kids off at this time, that's my slot. So do you strategize and place coaches in different class times so a member who's always going to go to 6:30 a.m. eventually sees a plethora of coaches?
I don't purposely move coaches around, but I do change classes around.
Got it.
So if you go every 6:30, it's not always going to be a power class. Sometimes it's going to be a full row. Sometimes you're going to see something different in that class. So our schedule is kind of fluid in that way. So I don't see people getting super set.
Talk to me about the different classes you guys have.
Yeah. So most of our first-timers we put into Signature. Signature is kind of our most popular, most common class. It's 2 segments of rowing, 2 segments on the floor. The floor work could be with or without weights. But it's nice for somebody who's a first-timer to rowing because none of your rowing segments are super long. We also do some sprinting and open rowing at the end, so you get to feel kind of your power and what you want to do at your own stroke rate. Power is a souped-up version of Signature. It's 4 segments on the floor and a higher stroke rate of rowing, but shorter segments. So Power is our most intense class. That's where I'd put a CrossFitter if he's coming in for the first time. Anybody with mobility issues, I would put into full row, which sounds odd that they're going to row for 45 minutes, but our older clients love it because they're not getting up and down off the rower. By the time they're down, somebody's up, and it's a lot. So full row is a great class. It's 45 minutes of rowing. You get a minute and a half to stretch in the middle, and you're back to rowing. But we vary the intervals enough that you're not feeling that 45 minutes, and they're sprinting in there. And then we have Restore. We row at a lower stroke rate. And we have a long stretching, some yoga poses in the middle of that class. It's about an 8-minute stretching segment. So it's a really nice recovery class for people that maybe are runners or doing higher intensity exercise. It's also a great class to really hone in on your form because you're not trying to keep up with the coach. It's a lower stroke rate.
So I love having multiple different classes. I experimented with, at Urban, we started with 4. We whittled it down to 1 signature one. Do you guys have a formula at Row House where, all right, these are our classes, and if one of them is grossly underattended and we move it around on the schedule and we just can't get it to hit, is there like a period of time where it's like, we're killing that one?
No. So those are our class types. We have the stroke clinics too, and we have express versions of all of those. So they're 30-minute classes. Signature is definitely the best attended, but there are people that love the full row, and that's what they're coming for, or love the Restore, and that's what they're coming for. So I would never get rid of a class type.
Would you be allowed to? With corporate, are you allowed to cut?
I make my own schedule, but I may decrease the number of that class type if I notice it's not super popular, but I wouldn't take it completely off because some people are coming for that class type.
So right now, we're sitting here in this room, and obviously, I know the operational capacity you guys could run in this place. Where's your head at? Where the governor just, I think did he just extend everything pretty much the same phasing?
3 more weeks.
What are you looking at, like light at the end of the tunnel thing? If you had to gamble, and none of us know what the hell's going on, what's your I think shit's gonna go back to normal by this date?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm in a weird kind of situation. I didn't qualify for any aid, not in the last round and not in this round because it was not open prior to February of 2020. So it's been a tough time financially. I would say, I'm looking at 6 months to try to get to full capacity and try to see numbers pick up. That's kind of the window where I'm thinking we should be at, a somewhat normal capacity, normal membership. So end of the summer. Would be great to see that. If it lingers past the end of the summer, that's going to be tough. Yeah.
I interviewed one of the oldest CrossFit gyms in the world. It was San Francisco CrossFit, the most expensive commercial real estate in the country. And they just shut down their doors because at some point you can fight, but when the owners are now having to go into their own personal savings because they did not qualify for anything either. There's a certain, there's a number, and you got to have a come to Jesus with yourself on there. Have you and your husband ever talked about that? Like, okay, if we are you guys currently in the black right now? Where's Row House currently?
Oh, super red.
Okay, super red.
Yeah.
What's your tap out? Have you guys planned that out in your head?
We talk about that all the time.
Sure.
And part of it is prognosticating, and I just don't know what's going to happen in the market. Honestly, I was surprised with the November we had. We had a good November, and then we had a shitty December.
Yeah.
And so we talk about it all the time, and it's a conversation I have with the franchisor at least twice a month, if not 3 times a month, of what's our tolerance? How long can we do this? Where can you help us? They're in the conversation with me. If I had a franchisor that was like, screw off, you pay your bills and don't bother me, it'd be a different situation. But they've had my back. both financially and in terms of advice and resources. They've given me a ton of resources. So, I mean, they've already been out to visit us in person, spent 2 days with my sales staff. They've been really good to me. So my sense is as long as that relationship continues and they're backing me up, I can keep going. So that's kind of where I am.
Are they, your monthly franchise fees, are they suspending that stuff for you guys, helping you out in any way, shape, or form there?
No, they've never reduced royalties for anyone in the network. Now, they have picked up a lot of studios that have gone under. They've stepped in. They've never had a studio close.
That's a good track record.
Yeah.
If they can make it all the way through the second half, the first half of 2021 with that intact, that would be great, actually.
Yeah. So they have not had a studio close, but they have taken over several. And so if I get to that point, I imagine that's what would happen. They don't want to see a studio close its doors.
No.
I mean, that's important to their marketing, and I get that. But as long as they're in the fight with me, I'll stay in the fight. That's how I feel about it.
We were discussing before I hit record, you literally, right next to you, so this is, for everyone, this is a nice, very affluent neighborhood in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a lot of really nice schools around here. You're talking the burbsy kind of moms and dads. UConn's maybe mom doesn't work. Dad's, he brings home the bacon, that kind of scenario. You're amongst Carmen and the, varicose vein removal. And then you have an F45 opening up literally on the other side of this wall, essentially. Yes. And directly in front of you, you have a 9 rounds. Is that still open and viable?
It is.
Okay. So and these are literally like you could spit and hit the front door of both of these all here. And I thought that was insane. From my perspective as a landlord, I would never be able to think of a tenant.
And Y2 Yoga.
And a Y2 Yoga, correct. So you have all these things here. Then in my head, I feel like your lease should have been, someone should have thrown a fit over your lease, but your landlord, whatever. With that being said, and you see that, does that give you hope? Like, more people are okay. So at least I picked the right spot. If F45 thinks this is a dope spot, I obviously picked a good one. If they're still opening up studios, they've got to obviously maybe have somebody who's got an MBA from Brown that sees something that maybe does that give you hope? Or is it like, oh, fuck, a competitor? Like now, instead of, 2 out of 5 coming in and becoming a Row House member, 1 out of 5 is going to.
So I thought like that originally before I opened. Now I'm thinking it's a good thing to have F45 next door because we're hidden back here. And it'll bring people back here because F45 is brand recognition. And they do a strength training workout. Maybe they want to do cardio once a week. So maybe it brings me clients is how I'm thinking about it. Or they get injured over there and they come to me. So either way, 9 round hasn't had much of an impact on us one way or the other.
It's a unique client. Are you familiar with their model?
Not really.
So it's just open from 5 in the morning to let's say 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Just show it. There's no classes. You just show up and then you start your 9 rounds. So you could just walk in at 3:17 p.m., start yours, and there's someone who showed up at 3 p.m. and they're on round 6 already.
Yeah.
Just walk in and just start going. It's very interesting.
And I think they're by appointment now because of COVID.
Sure.
Because they're not open all day, but that clientele is just different than ours. I've never really seen crossover. Hasn't really impacted us one way or the other.
Do you guys, like Charlotte's a very nomadic fitness town. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when the breweries opened back up, the biggest complaint of all the studios around town was, the breweries are all doing, free boot camps and HIIT workouts and an 8-ounce pour for $6 or whatever. How am I supposed to compete with that? Yeah. And there are, Class Pass is definitely a thing. Are you guys on Class Pass?
Yes.
Okay. So Class Pass, that concept of nomadic fitness is really big. Do you find that Row House attracts permanent, this is my only fitness outlet, or people who are doing it supplementally with other fitness outlets?
We have a smattering of Class Pass, not a ton. I do feel like that's a different fitness consumer. We don't really target them to convert. I look at it as a very small supplemental income and not really my
fills
membership
an empty seat.
Yeah. It's not most people who come in here. Most people who come in here are couch to rower, I would say. Or they're athletes and they have a set fitness routine and we're complementing that.
Where do you see the digital fitness thing? That's a big conversation now. Fast Company recently just made this really large article that got a lot of headlines, and they talked a lot about that brick and mortar fitness is definitely on its way out, is their argument. Digital is here, and they compared it to what the retail and the mall industry saw with arcades. Arcades used to be a place where teens and kids would go play games. You would be rewarded for your game. You'd take the tokens. You'd get a prize, whatever, and it was a social element. And then Sega Genesis and Nintendo make it so you could be at home, but there was still no community. So the arcades still survived really well in the early days of video game systems. And then Xbox and PlayStation, I mean, you can connect and Twitch and you play fucking video games with a kid in Dubai, right, at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now there's community there.
Yeah.
Where's your thought as a brick and mortar owner and operator? Where does digital fit in, and what is that going to do to the brick and mortar?
So one of our biggest struggles with the row house Go is that most people don't have a rower at home. So I guess if I had portable equipment, I would think digital would be bigger for our model, but this is really something you come to the studio to do. And as I've said, many of our members actually have a rower at home and don't use it. So I think the people that come here come because the coach knows them. If they don't show up, the coach is texting them, hey, where were you at 6:30 this morning? We missed you. I call them if I don't see them for a couple of weeks. That's what they're coming for, accountability, community, to be pushed harder than they'd push themselves at home. It's something special. It's not something you can really duplicate at home. I have 3 rowers in my house. I don't use them.
Are they all Concept 2s?
Yeah, but I'll take classes here.
Sure.
So I don't know. I feel like it's not something that's easily duplicated in a home workout. I know there's Hydro and all these things, but are people using them when they get into their house? I never did.
Peloton's #1 watch videos are archived. They're not live. And that was a very interesting stat to me. Now, the lives, I mean, out of the millions of people that are on it, the lives definitely get plenty of views.
Yeah.
But the archived, because people do things when you can, they do them on their schedule. They don't show up for an 8 p.m. live class. They just do an archived one at 8:13, because that's when they were after putting the kids to bed. And I always thought of the Concept 2s. People talk to me about it, but I said, in the commercial fitness industry, there's not a better product than the Concept 2. It is $999. It will last forever.
Yeah.
Now, where obviously it lacks, it has an analog screen on it that reminds me of my TI-83 Plus calculator from high school. But that's the beauty of it. That's why it doesn't break. That's why the touchscreen doesn't get dim. That's why, Hydro and a lot of the mechanical issues they've had criticism on. Do you guys ever think, if we could amend a pad at your phone or whatever and watch a really good live streaming, spend $4,000 on really good live streaming gear, and then do that? Could we pluck at $30 a month a bunch of people locally around here who would consider us, but they're not willing to come in studio yet because they're still looking at seeing their grandma twice a month, and they don't want to kill their grandma?
Yeah. It's a thought. I mean, in terms of the stats that you see on this computer screen, honestly, if I could have my way, I would have that pushed down in every class for everybody because it's a distraction.
And just run off these screens up here.
Yeah. Because they get an email after class that has not just their stats, but every indication of how they're doing over time.
Are these just Bluetoothed to the TV?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So we have sensors in the ceiling.
I was going to say.
And then it feeds into our software. And so it will tell them how much their split has improved over time and from their last class, their total meters rowed. It rewards them even in the app. They're seeing celebration, you got to this milestone, and then we celebrate them here. It's all of that soft stuff that you get after class. That's the warm hug. I feel like this during class is a distraction, and when I put it down, I have my best stats. I really do.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of more computers, more things in my
Sure.
face. I did the Orange Theory. I hated seeing my numbers next to everybody else's. I hated it because it made me feel why am I not getting that many splat points,
Sure.
We don't have that in the room. So I'm not a big fan of all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the studio it definitely is. I think putting down the monitor of the
Yeah.
Concept 2 is definitely because you look at the most successful. Rise Nation is a VersaClimber, same concept, but with a VersaClimber, Spin Studios, and even Flywheel. They didn't give you. There was a little, I think, indicator showing your power, but mainly there was no screen. And because if you come here for what I consider at the concert, the show,
Right.
that is the artist, that is the talent on stage, and
Yes.
that's where you want that engagement to be. It's the equivalent of someone watching the football game, but then also messing around on their phone simultaneously, that kind of or going to a better example, going to a live game and watching it on their phone or on the screen.
So I'm good with this antiquated screen. It's perfect.
Yeah. I always thought because we have all Concept 2 products, and I was just I wish, and I know they never will because they don't have to, because I wish there was a thing for the at-home version, not for in-studio, but something that could be attached where there could be something synced in. If I have a Concept 2 product, I'd love to be able to follow along with something. It could be a studio, whatever that is. I got to meet with one of the marketing people for Concept 2 one time, and I asked him, what do you guys do with your marketing budget? Because you guys don't have to advertise whatsoever. And she was sipping a drink at the hotel bar, and she goes, this. I go to these fucking conferences and I set up a table, but we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
What do you see? We're sitting here, you're hoping 6 months is the timeline.
Yeah.
You are obviously, you're going to, at some point, if that's not the case, we're all having to come up with what our next game plan is. If things didn't go well for you and me and every other fitness owner in Charlotte, North Carolina, what's your next play? What do you do? You're still
Bird
a lawyer.
watching.
Bird watching?
I have really great camera equipment that my husband bought me when I thought I was going to retire and just be a bird watcher. So that's my backup plan.
Go out to the mountains, go by Crowder's Mountain and start watching birds?
Yes.
Do you have kids?
I have 3 teenagers, yeah.
3 teenagers?
Yeah.
Are they into this?
So it's interesting. My son, who's 19, who didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, dropped out of college, he works here. He's my cleaning guy.
Yeah.
I keep him close to me. He knows the business as well as anybody. So that's kind of where he landed. My other 2, my youngest one is 13. She likes to come and row. She comes once a week. Our deal is if she helps me once a week, she gets 1 item of retail every month. So it's a good deal for her. She likes that.
You guys have nice retail. So
and my middle daughter could care less. So
that's so funny. I mean, did you ever envision this as, this is something that my kids will be into and maybe one of them wants to get into? Or is it just again, I think a lot of the franchisee, the stereotype is, I'm in for 6 to 7, I exit. Is that kind of the transactional play? Because this is, at the end of the day, it's an awesome community, but this is a business. And my goal is to get in and make money and enjoy what I do.
I never knew I was going to work as hard as I've been working. It is not a 9 to 5. I mean, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I start setting tasks and looking at. I'm working all day long. Do I want to do this forever? No. I would like to see this business be successful and then pass it along, but it will unlikely be to one of my family members. So yes, I'd be happy to pass this business along to somebody that will love it up and take care of it. And I'd like to see it be successful first. I'm not really somebody who quits on things. So I'm putting in, every ounce of my energy to make it successful. And we'll see. If the environment helps me, that would be great. We can get through COVID. I think it has the potential to do great.
Cindy, this was awesome. I really do appreciate you taking the time today to jam with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.